Today, the Below Average Joe's MMA show present the weekend recap.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking the biggest fights of the weekend from UFC Vegas 61, Bellator 286, maybe, just maybe, a little one on Prime Video 2. All this and more, and it all starts right now. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us, episode 240. We're here with the recap to give you guys the recap to the action from across all the MMA promotions from this weekend. UFC, Bellator, a little one. All of it starts right now. But first, I want to talk to everybody about PointsBet Sportsbook, Dom.
Please do.
PointsBet Sportsbook is the official betting partner of the Below Average Joe's MMA show, and they have an exclusive offer for you, the listener, you, the viewer, right now. As a new user, when you sign up for PointsBet Sportsbook, on your initial deposit, they are going to match 100% of that initial deposit up to $2,000. It's literally free money. Just goes straight into that sports bet account, and boom, you got it. You can use it and start accumulating some positive gains in that account. You know
Some
what I mean?
cash.
So make sure to make good use of that. There's two ways to do it. One, the link in the description of today's episode. You take that link, you sign up there, boop, done. See ya. You got it. Second, you can download the PointsBet Sportsbook app and use code MMA Joes.
Yeah.
I think they got it that time.
Mm-hmm.
MMA Joes that sign up, and you will also get the deposit that way. So, happy betting. Please gamble responsibly. And with that, Dominic, we head into UFC Vegas 61. In your main event, Xiaonan overcomes her previous two-fight losing streak and gets the biggest win of her career in her first main event spot opposite Mackenzie Dern. Now, it came via majority decision. There was one draw from the judges on the scorecards. Back and forth fight here, obviously, by that kind of scoring. 48-47 on the other two judges' scorecards. How surprised were you by the result? Yan Xiaonan was a plus 195 underdog at what I took her as. Did this result surprise you? You're very high on Mackenzie Dern. Xiaonan has not. She looked better against Marina Rodriguez, but we saw how she looked on the ground against Carla Esparza. So, how surprised were you, Dom?
I wasn't too surprised. I mean, we talked about it on Thursday how plus 195 was a little bit enticing. Noah so much even took the stab at it and hit. I mean, again, Noah said as I was high on Mackenzie Dern, but fight by fight, it continues to get lower and lower, I feel like, because she is so much of a one-dimensional, one-trick pony. And if you can just simply nullify those submissions, which Yan Xiaonan did by having good submission defense, she was not on her back too often. And when she was able to fend off and do enough to get back up when she needed it. And if she had good takedown defense and all, if you put all that together, you have a very, very good chance to beat Mackenzie Dern because she still has not made the jumps that we wish to see from her on the feet. That's where she got bested for most of the fight when it was up there by Jan, which going in, you should expect that to happen. But then again, to not be able to get that submission, she doesn't do much damage with ground and pound for the most part. It's just until she can put a complete game together or at least bring those other areas closer to what the BJJ skill set is for her, she is super, super beatable, especially when you put her at a minus 230 favorite. So it's unfortunate for her that she hasn't been able to tally these wins together like I may have once thought she could. But it was a good bounce back win for Yan Xiaonan, one that she deserved to win. I scored it 3-2 personally for Yan. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Not the greatest main event either, but we talked about that going in that I didn't need to be in that place. But what are you going to do? She gets the win. She bounces back from the skid, beats number 5. We'll see what they do next for her. The matchmaking with these two ladies has been a little bit odd the last year or so.
Yeah, I think that's due to maybe a slight stagnation at the top of the
Mm.
heap for women's strawweight, but I thought this was a good win for Xiaonan. This was the cards were feeling like they were a little stacked against her as of late. Like I'm sure she's happy with getting these big fights over and over, but it just didn't seem to make sense for her to get pummeled by Carla to then take a fight with another true contender in Marina,
Hmm.
lose that even though it was a close fight, and then take on Mackenzie Dern, who was still ranked in front of her. Like you feel like she should be taking a step back,
Yeah.
but she proved to make good on that. So she was in her first main event spot. She makes good on it. Looked good. Striking looked good, and then when the fight was on the ground, she didn't. She got worked, and every time rounds 2 and 5, she definitely got outworked for sure. But she never quite got outclassed, I don't
Mm.
think. I mean, round 5, that was the round that I think one of the judges scored it a 10-8.
That makes sense.
Definitely dominant, and I mean, you're going up against someone who's literally like the female Hoist Gracie. Like she is that lethal when it goes to the ground. Like hardly anybody gets out of that position. And as someone who was a money line better on Yan Jiaonan, my asshole has never been tighter than during that fifth round.
Yeah.
Because with like 15 seconds left, I thought she was going to pull off an armbar,
Yeah.
and that would have broken my heart. Even though I had a great gambling day outside of that, that would have really done me in right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good on Xiaonan for staying composed in those positions, for
Hmm.
staying calm, not rushing. That might have given her up rounds, like rounds 2 and then rounds 5, where those long extended exchanges on the ground, her being so patient probably lost her around,
Hmm.
but there was no need to take the big risk to get out of
Yeah.
that position,
Yep.
considering she won round 1. Okay, you give up round 2. Rounds 3 and 4, she came back even stronger. So round 5, you had to feel pretty good about your lead. Obviously, you never know with the judges, but I
Hmm.
think she mostly was looking to survive in that round, and it ended up being the right choice, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. And I'm just curious, Noah, like, what do you really make of Mackenzie Dern at this point? Because we've seen her fight a lot of fights now against great competition, good competition, bad competition. Been there, done that with a lot. And she's still a good talent. I'm not saying she's not, but it is clear that she's so one dimensional that it is now becoming more to her detriment when she's fighting the biggest fights, when she's fighting
Mhm.
the top five, when she's fighting the title contenders. Jiu-jitsu is not enough to put you in and get the win column.
Well, I think for her, it's just the fact that she doesn't have the ability to really frequently get the fight into her jiu-jitsu. She doesn't really
Yeah.
make things easy on herself,
Yeah. Yeah.
Her UFC career takedown accuracy is was 9% going into this fight. And I think she went like the last I heard it was like 1 of 9. She
Yeah.
might have went 2 of 10 or 2 of 11 or I don't know. Not good. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just not good. And like I get it. Some people like there's certain fights where you really pepper with like the single leg. You're not really trying to take them down. You're mostly just trying to make them work. You put them up against the fence. Some fights the takedown accuracy looks a little ugly, but
Yeah.
that's just been her career. She has not been able to. Unfortunately for her, I mean she's okay in different areas, but where it takes for her to get the fight to her bread and butter, she is just not developed.
Right.
She's just not.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because she's so lethal in a single area, but yeah, has no idea how to get it there.
Yeah, yeah, that is truthfully the case. And you look at Jan, just a more complete fighter when you look at the all-around skill set, and that is what ended up getting her the win last
Yeah.
night. So I am curious to see what Jan can do in the future because I do think she is still a very good talent. She's 33, so right on in the prime, right on the edge of that prime. Well, she would see what she can do. She's going to go the distance a lot, but she has what it takes to do that and win on the judges' scorecard. She does enough. We'll see what the UFC gives her next. She's going to be top five now. So,
Sure. More on this card to come. We're going to switch over to a little Bellator, Dom. The biggest Bellator card of the year. Probably will be the rest of the year that you may not have heard about due to the lack
that's
of promotion. But very interesting, Dom. Familiar foes stand tall. You got two guys on the same card, two of the biggest stars in the promotion. AJ McKee, Patricio Pitbull, both 1-1 against each other. They're on the same card, the biggest fight card of the year, and they are facing two different people.
In two different weight classes.
Yeah. So Patricio Pitbull was in your main event. He does defend his featherweight title against Adam Borics via unanimous decision. And also in the co-main event, AJ McKee gets the unanimous decision win over Spike Carlyle. Dominic not putting his money where his mouth is. He did not bet on Spike Carlyle.
Yes.
But I am curious, as a viewer, Dom, did the Spike Carlyle that we know and love show up, or was the bright lights just a little too bright for the guy?
I still think that the Spike that we love showed up, the Spike that just loves getting into a fight and giving it his all, but I just think the levels are showcased in a fight like this. You know what I mean? I mean, he's fighting AJ McKee, a former champion, a guy that is one of the most talented fighters outside of the UFC. See our verbal sparring from last week. And it was too much for him. He just had the answers to all problems that Spike could throw at AJ. AJ had the solution. AJ had the equation, and he just is that good. And much of the same for Patricio Pitbull against Adam Borics. Guys, another type of fight here where don't let those stats at the end of the fight fool you. Yeah. Adam Borics, I believe, 171 total strikes compared to Patricio's 81, 83, 90, something like that. But it was still utter dominance from the champion in Pitbull for most of that fight. He defends that title against the number 2 guy that was coming in on a hot streak, 4 wins in a row. It's those two guys and then a whole lot of other people behind them, except now AJ moved up to 155, I guess. I mean, is it a bit annoying to you, Noah, that we have this type of card where they are fighting together, main event, co-main event, the rivalry, the 1-to-1, yet they aren't fighting each other? And then you see the results and how good they are compared to their opponents, and you're just like, damn, why don't we just get that third fight?
I don't know. It's weird because I like to poke fun at it like I have here, where it's just like the fact that seems like such a thing to do, right?
Yeah.
It seems like the obvious thing to do is to make a trilogy, but I get it. Adrian McKee wanting to go up to 55. There just didn't seem to be a ton of clamoring for that fight.
Yeah.
I don't understand if it's just because the second fight wasn't great, but it wasn't like the second fight was like terrible.
Right.
I've seen plenty worse second fights.
Yeah.
But I think part of what's made people just so ho-hum about it is maybe that the two individuals in the rivalry have been kind of ho-hum about it. Like, as soon as AJ McKee lost, he didn't seem all that motivated to go back in there and reclaim that title. So if they don't care, then why should we?
Yep, exactly.
But I do want to touch on your point about the fight statistics and about looking too much into those at the end of a fight. I have been saying for years, Dominic, one of my biggest pet peeves that MMA fans do is, as a means of supporting their argument for why a certain fighter won, they show the fight stats. Like, by fight stats, I mean like the striking numbers.
Yeah.
Like, they'll show that fighter A had 30 more significant strikes than fighter B, so therefore fighter A should have won.
Right.
That is not an argument. It's not.
And we've seen that more so than ever come to fruition throughout this year with the judging and stuff too.
Yes, that's very true. And yet we've seen very concrete examples of why that's a bad method to use in your argument. This fight, how about Marlon Vera in his main event against Rob Font?
Yep.
That was like the biggest discrepancy in UFC history. I might throw in a little actually that one would be more to the point of the fight sets. I was going to say Ji-Yeon Kim over Zombie Girl.
The
one where...
That was the more so the damage compared to the output. Yeah.
Right. So, regardless, I thought Patricio Pitbull looked fantastic.
Yeah. Hasn't slowed down,
AJ McKee looked good. You probably want to see a finish there, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is that really I don't know if that is fair. Like, is that fair of me to ask of him? Spike's a very tough dude. I don't know if he's ever been finished. Nope. Like, he's that would take a lot. And I mean, he did prove to be outclass him. But I do disagree with you though about AJ McKee feeling like he is like a level above the rest of the lightweights because I think some guys like Usman Nurmagomedov,
Mm-hmm.
Tofik Musayev, maybe even Patrici could probably give him a pretty good fight, and it'll be a very very interesting fight once it's time for AJ McKee to take on one of those three guys, because inevitably one of those guys is going to be holding the title here in the next few months when we go to Chicago. Patricky Pitbull, correct? Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
that's right.
second title fight. Yep.
So we may see a new champion, or maybe Patricky proves that this isn't just a flash in the pan for him. But I don't think it's going to be so easy for AJ McKee to get a title. I think, actually, hot take alert, ring the bells. I think it's harder for him to get the lightweight title than it would be to reclaim the featherweight title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
I don't know if
definitely
that's
would
a
agree.
hot take. Maybe it's not a hot take, but considering what happened on this card with the featherweight division, now Patricio Pitbull looked fantastic. We had questions. You know, yes, he reclaimed the title against McKee in the second fight after getting finished in the first round in their first fight. But you just wonder, yes, okay, the man's in like his fourth title reign at featherweight, and
Yeah.
you know what? How much motivation is left? How much in the gas tank is really left to keep pushing, to keep trying to build that kind of Hall of Fame resume, right? And
Right.
he just outclassed Adam Borics. I didn't expect that. I thought if you forced me to pick, I probably would have said Pitbull would win. But I thought it was going to be a much tougher fight for him, and he made it look easy peasy, lemon squeezy though.
I like that. No, and just one last question. What do you think they do then with AJ McKee at lightweight? Because I know he said he does not plan to go to 145 unless it is a title fight. Which I mean, I could see Bellator maybe trying to venture to get the trilogy now that they both won separately. But what do you think they do next if you had to pick for AJ McKee?
Well, that's an interesting question because I like to throw out sometimes these out of left field,
Hmm.
and sometimes they end up coming closer to fruition. I mean, maybe Paulo Hamzat happens, maybe it doesn't. Hamzat's
Right.
being kind of goofy on his social media, um, but for this one, I think the clear fight is him versus Tofik Musayev. Musayev is the
Mm,
guy. He was the odd man out in that trifecta of guys at
yep.
lightweight that are all in that title mix. So I mean, if AJ McKee is really that guy, if he is a top contender, he's a former featherweight champion. He should be brought into the lightweight division as a contender right away.
Hmm.
Him and Musayev fight for who gets the next title fight.
I love every idea right
And
there
that's
that
a
you
great
just put out.
headliner. It's a great headliner because
Oh yeah,
Tofik Musayev looked fucking
he's
baller.
he's
And
good.
his that was his Bellator debut, right?
Yeah.
Is that so? He looked fucking phenomenal, and AJ McKee, as talented and as great as he has looked at times in his career, I think it's safe to say that since the first Patricio fight where he won the title, something maybe hasn't quite looked the same for him.
Yeah.
He's fighting a bit of a safer style, but it's not always working in his favor. He lost the rematch, and then here with Spike, you got definitely a fight that was in his favor from the get go, but he didn't exactly. I mean, he dominated, I guess, in a sense, but it just felt very safe. That's what
Yeah.
I'm getting from McKee
Yeah.
right now.
Could you foresee a world in which, say, Patrici successfully defends the lightweight title in November? Could you see Bellator hopscotching AJ McKee over the others for the simple fact of the storylines fighting Patricio's brother for a title up a weight class? Or do you think for sure, or not for sure, but like you feel more confident AJ will fight someone else before getting a title fight at 155? Because I love your idea of Tafik, by the way. Let us not forget,
Yeah,
Tafik is a man who has beat the current champion, Patricky Pitbull, when they did the Rise and co-promotion a
right,
few years ago. So,
right. I would say that I don't think that storyline, as interesting as it is to us, it just doesn't seem to be getting any traction with
yeah.
anybody else.
Hmm.
Again, I think a lot of that's because of the ho-humness of the individuals involved. That is,
Yeah.
yeah, like once they're booked, there's some, words shared, McKee, Pitbull, not afraid to, throw some bars at one another. But I'm not sensing this isn't Habib Connor, and throwing in Islam, right? Like that
Yeah.
would be
Right.
this isn't that kind of venom,
Yeah.
and no, nothing really is. But it's not even close to that.
Yeah.
They don't seem to care about continuing this rivalry.
I
So
know.
again, I think I would prefer to see McKee fight one more and then get a title. I think that Musayev fight would really test out how he's gonna do at lightweight.
There it is.
Yeah. And more to come on Bellator 286. We're actually going to hop right into the rest, correct, Tom?
Yes, sir.
So we start in our co-main of UFC Vegas 61. Randy Brown gets the unanimous decision win over Francisco Trinaldo. Trinaldo, 44 years old,
Mm.
coming into this fight. Now, Dominic, I'm going to use one of your bets as a story to kind of get your thoughts on here.
Hmm.
Because you had Randy Brown via finish.
Yeah.
But obviously, Randy Brown, friend of the show, we're both
Yes.
very high on the guy.
Hmm.
He's definitely coming into his own, definitely kind of starting to hit that peak of his career right now. My question for you, based off the fight we got, which was a clear win for Randy Brown, but not exactly a dominant performance, not a
Yeah.
finish, right?
Yeah.
Round three, Trinaldo he was in on bottom in Trinaldo's guard and
Yep.
um, was there for basically the whole round.
Yeah.
So, based off of your evaluation of Brown going into the fight and how you thought the fight was going to go, does this win ultimately help Brown's stock, or is it kind of hurt it a little bit in your eyes?
Yeah, honestly, it definitely didn't help it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to necessarily come out and say it hurt him, but he definitely is no further than where he was entering the fight. And for me, viewing it as a spectator, as someone who comes on here and talks about it every week, it was a bit of a step back in terms of what we saw from him. But I mean, nobody can finish Francisco Trinaldo. He's
Mm-hmm.
as durable as ever. Like he makes every fight that he's in is hard. I just, from what I had been seeing from Randy, he has been the most complete we've ever seen, and he's really coming into his all. He's hitting that prime portion of his career. I just felt like a big performance here against a guy like Trinaldo, as seasoned as he is, as durable. A big finish, a big statement win would have definitely did a lot for him, put him in talks for those top 15 for his next fight. Not that I'm saying he can't still get like a ranked opponent, but I don't know. I still I don't know. I was left with some things to be desired, I guess I should say. And I'm not trying to be too harsh. I still think he's a great talent, but I just don't know if I feel confident in him getting like a top 15 after that performance. And it
Well,
always matters
let
with the
me let me
matchup.
let me try to offer you something here. Maybe this is kind of how you're feeling. Do you feel like we might be hitting a ceiling for Randy Brown?
Mm,
Like you almost thought that maybe he had the he could go higher than a Francisco Trinaldo, like he could be a top 10, top 15 guy, and instead maybe this is just who he is, as good as he's gonna get.
yeah, I think that is a good question. I think that is something we are nearing. And I feel like I'm taking the easy way out again, but this is how I truthfully feel. His next fight's going to tell me a lot. His next fight is going to tell me a lot about where he can really go because you only have so much time in this game before people continue to come on and pass you up. So I don't know what they're going to do matchmaking wise. Again, I'm not opposed to him fighting top 15, but I don't foresee that happening now after this win. But if he comes out with another type of performance like this, compared to, I mean, look how good he looked against Chaos Williams. Yes, he didn't finish that fight, but he looked like the most complete package of Randy Brown that we had ever seen, with finishes coming before that as well. So, yes, I think that's the proper question, Noah. I think we are approaching that to where we may be witnessing the ceiling, but I'm going to give him the leeway. I'm going to give one more fight before I put the nail to the coffin on that.
I'm going to hold you to that. No, I'm just kidding. But the next fight we're going to talk about here, Super Sodiq Yusuff
Yes.
made his return, one of Dominic's guys, and he got a 30-second submission
Yeah.
over. How do you pronounce this guy's last name? Don Shainis? Shainis?
Shanice?
Shainis?
Shanus? One
Let's
of
just
the
call him
other.
Don. Let's just call him
Don.
Don.
Yeah.
So that was 30 seconds. Obviously, Don was a very short replacement.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Debutante.
it? He, Yusuff was like a minus 900
Yeah.
favorite. It was pretty obvious who everybody thought was going to win here, and Sodiq made him look like that short replacement
Yeah.
guy. Got him out there in 30 seconds. Did it with a submission. That was very interesting.
Yeah, it really was, Noah.
If you guys don't know what we're hitting at there,
Why did I just take him to win, dude?
Dominic had this kind of call it like an ethnic parlay where he was having like all these different styles of finish.
Yeah.
And, those are my favorite to put in because I got to keep going back to what he sends me. I'm like, like starting to get a headache after a while. But he had Sodiq by KO, TKO, DQ, or decision.
Yeah.
And he gets the submission win. That's
I deserve it, though. I mean,
I guess, I know there's not a ton to take away from this because, again, Sodiq is a top 15 level fighter. He's fighting a guy making his debut. But is there anything of note here for Sodiq? Was the quickness of the finish, was the fact that it was a submission win? Did anything like that maybe, stir you any certain way?
no, not at all. The only direction I'm steered after last night is please, please, please put Sodiq back in there and fight one more time before the end of 2022. No, we've talked about how he's not been the most active fighter over the years and how that's been to his detriment. This featherweight division continues to be more stacked and stacked as the months roll on. He's got to get in there and have another fight this year, and he has to make up for it. I think it has to be a top opponent. I forget who the original guy was going to be.
I don't remember either.
It was like a month ago. It got scrapped. Oh, man. It was a ranked fighter, but I'm blanking on who it was. But he has to get in there again. He took no damage. He got a 30-second finish. He's ready to rock and roll, and he needs activity to climb this ladder because I still believe in my man, Super Sodiq. I lost a bet because of him, but not because of a bad reason. He just dominated. So I need to see him again. Quick.
Well said. Well said. Finally, for UFC, Brendan Allen comes out and gets the first round submission over Krzysztof Jotko. Dominic, Brendan Allen is who we have to thank for our bet slip night. The below average bet slip being anything but below average on this night is thanks to Brendan Allen.
Yeah.
Pretty sure his single win won us 4.6 units alone.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So shout out to him. But also, this fight somehow, despite the fact that I had Brendan Allen to win and I had under 2.5 rounds, it still somehow surprised me.
Yeah. I agree.
Because I didn't expect Brendan Allen to really get this quick of a finish here against such a sturdy veteran and Krzysztof Jotko. A guy who the broadcast even said, Jotko a bit of a slow starter, but like he's a slow starter not in the sense of like he's vulnerable, like a Cowboy Cerrone. Like Cowboy Cerrone is very vulnerable early in his fights,
right?
Because he's a slow starter. Jocko's not vulnerable early, at least I didn't think so. But it's more that there's a bit of a sluggishness to his fights early. He's very clinch heavy, again, it's hard to look good against a guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And even here, he took Brendan Allen down, and I was kind of like, oh no. And now, in all full transparency, I was on my way. I was driving to our buddy's wedding reception that we were all at last night. And so I was listening to this fight, not watching it, which is a really weird experience to be just listening to commentary and not watching the fight. But it sounded like Jotko kind of had him down, and maybe Brendan somehow kind of switched his position and then was able to get that submission win. How did you think he looked? We know how good he is with his submissions, but was there anything else of note? Maybe how he looked on the feet, or was there not enough really to feed into there?
Yeah, definitely not enough on the feet. Really, the whole thing was on the ground. It happened relatively quickly. It did get me nervous very early on. But I'll say kind of one of the storylines I had heard as because they had to kill a lot of time during the prelims last night because there were a lot of very fast finishes and they had to go till 7. So they were kind of doing commentary with like the pre-fight guys on
They're
what the
doing
fight.
some bullshit filler.
Yeah, filler, and excuse me. They were talking about kind of just like fight IQs and how Brendan Allen is a great talent. He's 26 years old and has all this experience already, but doesn't have a ton of, or doesn't have a great fight IQ. And he's going up against someone in Jotko who, yes, he doesn't have exciting fights all the time, but he is a smart fighter when it comes to, he knows how to
They
get
couldn't
point
be
fight.
more opposite.
Yes, yes, exactly. But last night, Brendan Allen, yes, he got taken down early, but he stayed composed on the ground. He didn't let any submission threats hurt him. He didn't let any ground and pound land. He was constantly moving. He was looking for submissions from the bottom, had a great transition, got on top, didn't rush anything, worked into the submission, and it worked out great. So I think that could be, I mean, that's a good win for Brendan Allen. Again, a guy that's young. He has a lot of good experience. But to show that against a guy in Jotko, and we know the way that he fights, I think that win said a lot to me, maybe more so than it did for others. I'm always going to be high on Brendan Allen. I think fans of the show that have listened for a while know that about me. But I do think this guy is a top 15 talent, if not more, as he continues to evolve and grow in this sport. So I'm excited to see him get back in there, man. It was a big win for me liking Brendan Allen's skill set. I enjoyed what I saw.
Yeah, I do think we're starting to see Brendan Allen really take the next step, and that's very nice to see. Because
Yeah.
I mean, to get a win in this fashion over Krzysztof Jotko, yeah, Jotko might not be. I think Allen even said on the broadcast he was that one-time number 9 ranked guy in the world. He's not that guy anymore, but still solid, still a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
experience.
Oh yeah.
Still a tough guy to look good against. And Brendan Allen, at the end of the day, looked fucking good.
Yeah.
So enough said.
Yeah. Exactly.
Some more from Bellator 286. We got Jeremy Kennedy getting the technically first round TKO of Aaron Pico due to a shoulder injury. Aaron Pico's shoulder popped out of place and it just wouldn't go back in.
Yeah.
What a the career of Aaron Pico just it's never been boring.
Yeah, that's facts.
This dude's just had a lot of he's either kind of at times it seems like he's either looked fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
failed to live up to expectations,
Mm-hmm.
or some weird shit's just happened.
And this one falls under weird shit from last night.
Basically, him and Jeremy Kennedy scheduled 3-round bout. Round 1 happens at some point in the round. Aaron Pico's shoulder pops out of place. He tries to pop it back in while the fight's still going on.
Oh.
And then at the end of the round, I don't know if you saw the clips going around, Dom, with his coach.
Yeah.
It
It looked like they were pulling his arm off.
The fact that Aaron Pico put the picture of the dogs with the X-rays.
Yeah.
That's Aaron Pico.
He was so unbothered by his coach just
Yeah.
yanking his arm out everywhere.
That was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you think you've seen it all in this sport. We say that all the time. Like, all the cuts from the last UFC event.
There's always something.
Something just pops up and you're just like, man, what a fucking vicious-ass sport I watch. And I hate it for Aaron Pico. I really do.
That's tough. Yeah.
These two guys, him and Jeremy Kennedy, they just can't seem to just have a good, clean fight. They just something always keeps happening, gets in the way. Maybe we'll see this run back. I think that would be nice, but I also don't expect it because Jeremy Kennedy, that's a big win. Maybe he moves on, but I don't know. I don't know what to really say here because Aaron Pico, if he won that fight, may have been getting a title fight.
It felt like it, right? It felt like he was really starting to put it all together. He was tallying off a lot of wins, a lot of finishes, fun fighter, charismatic guy, and then he I don't even want to say fall short. Yes, he does in the win-loss column, but it's unfortunate when you have a shoulder injury like this. This could have been that fight that should he got another big win, he was there, as Noah said. So it's a shame. It's a setback. I just want to see how much of a setback it'll be. And if it will be at all.
It's a definite setback, but it's not as much as I think maybe some people think it is. Due to the weirdness of his career and the fact that he does have a few losses just from not having the best defense in the
Yeah.
world or whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people looked at this almost like as a door shut, like he's never going to be a champion level fighter fight. And I just think that's kind of crazy because he's still very young. He's still so talented.
Yeah.
Injuries happen. You got to roll with the punches, right?
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah.
get too technical on you, but I hope they run it back. I feel gutted for Aaron Pico. I really do, but um, you know, nothing else really left to be said there. I don't think.
Yeah. I agree.
Finally, Juan Archuleta does get back on track. Dom, he gets a unanimous decision win over Enrique Barzola.
Yeah.
I actually think this one says a little bit more than maybe what the rankings will tell you or what the name values will tell you. Archuleta, former champion. Barzola has been a bit of an under the radar guy. He's a former UFC guy, had a pretty good record in the UFC. But Barzola looked pretty good in his loss in the Grand Prix and obviously had a good UFC career before that. And I was definitely starting to wonder if Juan Archuleta was maybe not the same fighter anymore. And he looked really good here. So, I mean, more power to him that he continues going in the right direction. I don't really know what you do with him because he's kind of now, he's gotten pretty much outclassed by Sergio Pettis. And then I forget who he fought in the Grand Prix, but I'm pretty sure he got pretty outclassed in that fight too. So I'm starting to wonder if, as good as he might still be, maybe he just can't really compete with the best of the best anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that other loss, as Noah was alluding to, was Rafael Stotts, and we know what that guy's on right now.
That's
He's got a
okay. I
big
guess
fight coming up,
That's I should definitely remember when Rafael Stotts is fighting, but it's just like I just remember Stotts and I mean maybe that should be expected, right? Stotts is maybe the best in the world in that division, and he sure fought like it that night.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Juan did what he had to do to win. He showed he still has gas in the tank, and he utilized what he's best at, right? And he used a lot of good grappling. He's in the win column. He's still holding strong, number 3 in the rankings. Maybe some things have to clear out for him, see what happens, but you never know. You never know.
You never know. So that's it for the rest. We're going to transition into the below average bet slip, Dom. And I want to take this time to remind everybody, if you want to see our picks in advance, you just got to follow us on the social media, baby. You follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Bajma, the BAJ MMA. You can also follow Dominic on Twitter and Instagram at DSleep14. You can follow myself on the rebranded Twitter and Instagram at TWIS_betting. I will just throw out a little hint to you guys. That stands for This Weekend in Sports. I'll be posting a lot of gambling, sports betting content on the Twitter and Instagram. Stay tuned. More to come. But that's all I'm going to tell you for now. But Dominic, big night for the bet slip. We go positive 4.64 units. We are above 5 for the 2022 standing. It's been a really nice last month and a half for me personally. I'm finally really close to crossing that negative line. I'm almost back above positive for the whole year. So very promising. But what kind of stood out to you? What surprised you about really how the cards fell on this weekend of MMA action?
I mean, again, shout out to Noah. He's kept us above water the last 2 weeks. He had a really great weekend this week. For the bet slip overall as a whole, we've had 4 straight winning weeks, which is great because we were really going through a rut toward the end of the summertime. But the fall season, hey, the leaves are changing colors, and so are that bet slip there, baby. From the negative to the positive, things are looking good. For me last night, man, I mean, I don't regret the Randy Brown by finish. I strongly believed in him. I still believe in his skill set. And I just thought that it was more so like something's got to give with Trinaldo, right? He's 44. I know how durable he is, but I just felt like with the way Randy had been looking, he was going to be able to get a big finish. He did not. So what are you going to do there? I took a chance, obviously, on Julia Stolyarenko by sub at plus 300. I mean, come on. She was fighting a debutante. She has 9 out of 10 wins via sub. I had to take a stab at it. She had the armbar locked in at the very beginning of the fight, and I thought, holy shit, it's actually going to hit. Then she got destroyed from there on out. So that was a bit of a Debbie Downer. And then the parlay, I have a regret, Noah, and I just regret simply Why do I have to put Sodiq by KO TKO decision? If anything, I should have picked him to win by finish. He's fighting a UFC debutant on short notice. He's number 12 in the world at the weight class. I had a feeling he was going to look good. I should have just took him straight up by finish. But I went with those two routes. He had never had a submission victory in his career before until last night. So, what are you going to do? I love the guy. Otherwise, the bet would have hit. So that does really burst my bubble. But if I had to pick a regret for myself, that's what it would have been. I should have just taken Sodiq straight up, but instead I took it from minus 900 to minus 700. It really didn't change my parlay odds that much. So we live and learn. The variety parlays continue to be the biggest black eye to my betting this year. But Noah, you went big. I mean, look at all those green arrows up there. This guy didn't even lose a regular prop. The only bet Noah lost was the freaking parlay. This guy's on fire.
Yeah, those 2 units, man. That what a tough way for that parlay to go. I mean, it almost makes me feel better to know that it was going to die anyways.
Yes.
And that would have been particularly brutal if it got all the way to Pico and then a shoulder injury really ruined it. But instead, within the first minute of the very first fight of the UFC card, my parlay was dead. So I was like, wow, okay, well, don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
And Dom even acknowledged how heartbreaking that must be, like for that parlay to end in that fashion.
Yeah.
But then I think your fashion of losing your parlay was somehow even worse.
I'd have to agree.
That was what's funny is you told me you're like, I can't think of a worse way for a parlay to go. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure yours was even more heartbreaking later.
Yeah, it was terrible.
You had your Yuri Prohaska moment.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Point blank.
When I bet on Yuri Prohaska, I was like KO TKO like all the way, and I remember on this show I said multiple times he's not had a submission since 2012. There's not gonna. I said I think it's more likely that he goes across the cage and punts Glover Teixeira in the balls and gets DQ'd. Then gets a submission win, and sure enough, he got a submission win. So
betting's fun.
Betting is fun. Betting on MMA is the worst thing you could do. Don't ever do it. But if you do it, do it responsibly. And this is what we got. I have been having some success with some pretty heavy underdog grabs.
Yeah, and you have, especially this week.
That's really been what's been kind of helping me get above this or close to this zero marker, get above on the positive side. So I'm just going to keep doing that. I mean, to be honest with you, like the Jotko Allen one, I was a little unsure about, but like Xiaonan, I felt good about that coming in.
Yeah.
I just really, even if she would have lost that fight or it would have ended up being a draw, which I thought there was a chance it might with the way round 5 went, I think that's great value considering where I value both fighters right now. Mm-hmm. Mackenzie Dern's very good, but she is not a 2-to-1 better than Xiaonan.
Yeah, exactly.
But with that, Dominic, there's only one way we end the show around here. That's what closing statements, part of the show where me and Dominic talk about anything and everything, MMA related or not. So Dominic, do you have any closing statements for this Monday edition?
Oh, no crazy food talk, no crazy debates. Really, it's kind of another shout out similar to Monday. I'm getting soft on the audience now, but we had a great time. Noah hinted at it or alluded at it earlier. We were all reunited again last night, celebrating our friends Jordan and Rihanna on their wedding. They got married a few months ago, but they had their big reception now with everybody there. It was just great. Good times, good vibes, good food, good company. Everything was great about it. There's always something special when you get to have all your people back together at one time. Because, we're all getting older. We're all going down different streets, different avenues, different paths. But we can all come together under one roof. It's always heartwarming, Noah. So I just had to give a shout out to all the homies.
Yep, and I got my new profile picture on Facebook out of it.
There you go.
Yeah, so I'm Noah Baker. That's Dominic Salee. We are but just two of the below average Joes. Shout out to JP and Rena.
Yes.
And we're out.